just imagine my utter shock when I found out that it would be very difficult for me to get pregnant, and I might possibly never get pregnant. Hi beautiful people, welcome back to the Boys Mama's YouTube channel. I am the Boys Mama. This is my second episode and I'm so excited to come back to all of you. If you are a returning subscriber, what can I say? Thank you. Thank you so much for all of the love that you poured out on me on my first video. All of the likes, the comments, the suggestions. You guys, you blew my mind away. I cannot thank you enough, and I do not take any of you for granted. Thank you so much from the depths of my heart. Thank you. To everybody who shared the video to anybody, thank you so much, and do not forget to share this video as well. If you've just chanced on this video, it is not just share luck, you're destined to see this. So this is a YouTube channel where we talk about everything faith. I'm hoping to build your faith and trust in God by sharing my own story. So if you're interested in building up your faith and trust in God, you are at the right place. Kindly hit the subscribe button and like this video, leave me a beautiful comment, and do not forget to share to everybody you know. You do not know who needs to hear this message, so please share to everybody around. So this is the beginning of my story, the story that I am hoping to build your faith and trust in God with. So I'm going to start with my pregnancy journey. I'm going to start from the very beginning and tell you everything that led up to the pregnancy and everything that I went through, how God came through for me. You might want to grab a paper, a pen, a pencil, a marker, a booklet, anything that you can jot some points down, because we're going to be learning so many things today. You might want to have your phone near you because you can jot things on your phone as well. You're in a trendy era. Just however you can jot some things down, because we're going to learn a lot of things today. Growing up, I've always loved children. It's an open secret. Everybody knows how much I love and adore children. So it was not uncommon for you to find me in children classes every time we go to church, because I get the opportunity to carry them, play with them. I just loved it. So it was such a good feeling for me, which is why I was almost always in the children's class. In view of this, I just couldn't wait to have my own children. I had always imagined having my own children, cuddling them, doting on them, carrying them on my back, all the fantasies. So you can just imagine my utter shock when I found out that I could possibly never have my own children. I've always had very irregular cycles, but I didn't think of it as very important, because I just thought it was one of those things until a few months to my wedding. Then I realized that my kind of irregular was a bit irregular. So I decided to have a pelvic scan just to rule out a lot of things and to make sure that I'm ready to have my children when I finally do get married. Nobody had asked me to take the scan, but I just felt to take it just to put it out of the way, so I would know that, oh, this is definitely not going to be a bother when I do get married and I want to have my children, which was very, very important for me. So one day after my night shift, I decided to finally have the scan. And right in front of where I worked, which is Global Teaching Hospital, we had a lot of diagnostic centers. So I just chose one, walked in and told them I wanted to have a pelvic scan. So I lied down and then we had a scan. And you know when somebody is taking a scan and you're looking at the person's face and you can sense that there's something wrong? That was the exact feeling I was getting. So I could sense something was wrong from the grimaces on the lady's face as she was scanning, but I just kept my cool, waiting to hear the results, and it was finally ready. She printed it out and said she was going to explain certain things to me. So she was looking at the report and sort of reading out to me and telling me that I have PCOS, Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, and it's going to be very difficult for me to get pregnant, and I might possibly never get pregnant. I don't know how I survived from that period up until I got home, and I don't remember everything else she said. She was explaining a lot of things, but I wasn't even listening. I felt shattered. I felt like the whole world was crumbling on me, because that was one of the most important things of my life, having my own children. And there she was telling me that I could possibly never have my own children. I was shattered. I really was. I went home with the report in my hand, tears flowing down my face. I was so sad. I was crying. And my mother asked me, "Why are you so sad? What's wrong?" I said, "Mom, even if I explained to you, you would not even understand. So just leave me be." So I just kept crying and crying. My older sister is a midwife, and she's obviously well vexed in all of these things. So I told her about the report and everything the sonographer had said about the results of the scan. And she was optimistic. She said, "Oh, these things happen." And I know a lot of people who have PCOS who have actually had children. It's just a matter of treating it. It's just a hormonal imbalance, and it's not the end of the world. Plus, God is able to do everything for us and all of this stuff, blah, blah, blah. I'm calling it blah, blah, blah because that's how I was hearing it. Everything was just going here and poof, out. So my mother finally got to know what's going on, and she cried. She cried with me, bless her. And she was praying with me as well and telling me not to lose hope and to continue to pray, and that everything is possible with God. I went through all the stages of grieving, from denial up to acceptance. I went through all of those things. So my first instinct was, no, that diagnosis center is probably not good. I mean, it's just like a wayside diagnosis center. It's not popular. So I'm sure the report is even wrong. So why am I even fretting? I mean, I don't have to be worried about a place whose reviews are not that good. I mean, it's not a popular place. So maybe I would have the scan at a more popular place, and if the result is still the same, then I have a cause to worry. So that was me the first time. And then I thought about it. I do have irregular cycles, just as she mentioned, and I trust me to go to Google and read about PCOS and all the signs and symptoms that we're talking about. I was like a textbook. I mean, it was so evident that it was true, but I just didn't want it to be true because I couldn't come to terms with the fact that I might possibly never have my own children. So I just wanted to deny it with every fiber of my being. So basically, PCOS, which is Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, is a broad term, and it's like the name suggests, it's a syndrome, so it's a collection of so many symptoms. So the symptoms vary from woman to woman, and until I was diagnosed with it, I didn't even know how popular it was. So I was reading about it on Google, and I found out that it is a very, very popular condition. The sad aspect is some people do not even know they have this. The major problem with PCOS is that it is not curable. There is no known cure for PCOS. And the only thing you can do is to treat the symptoms. The symptoms, like I said, vary from woman to woman. So some women have very prolonged menstruation. Others have very irregular cycle, like myself. And the problem with that is you wouldn't know when you're ovulating. And obviously you need to know when you're ovulating in order to get pregnant. So that is the major reason getting pregnant with PCOS is very difficult. Early diagnosis of PCOS is very, very important because it doesn't have a cure. So you'd have to try a lot of medications, and then you know which one works for you. So if you know it early enough, you can try a large range of medications, and then you can find which one works for you before you think of getting pregnant. But in my case, I was just a few months away from getting married, and I've always wanted a honeymoon pregnancy. Thankfully, my sister was a midwife and she worked closely with gynecologists. So she knew a number of them and knew those who were very good at their work. So she referred me to one. And just as I've explained early on, the doctor was a bit skeptical about the treatment because I had such a short time to get married, and he wasn't so sure if the treatment was going to be like the limited time I have was going to be enough to treat the PCOS, because like I said, you'd have to try a large range of medications. But I was ready to give it a go. I'm so thankful for the support system I had at the time. My older sister, my mother, and my fiance at the time, who is now my husband. They were so supportive. They kept lifting me up and telling me to be optimistic, giving me Bible examples, and they were so good. They held me up whenever I was down, and I'm so thankful to them. I felt so betrayed by God because I remember so well one pastor's wife who came to our school to preach about marriage, and she was telling us that if by this time, I think I was in SHS at the time, and she was like, if by this time you haven't started praying for your marriage and even the children you're going to have in the future, you're a bit late. But it's better late than never. I so remember that sermon. And right from that day, I realized that I needed to start praying for my marriage and even the children I was going to have. So from that day, even though I did relent in a few ways, but I was consistent. I would wake up at dawn and I would pray about my marriage. I'll pray about the children that I want to have. And I was so specific. I always told God, God, please bless my womb with beautiful twin girls and their siblings. I always said this prayer all the time. So I felt so betrayed. Why would God do this to me? When I began the treatment with the gynecologist my sister had referred me to, he told me to have another scan just to be sure that we are doing the right thing. So this was with a very popular diagnostic center, and I went to have the scan, and it came back and said I didn't have PCOS. At this point, I didn't even know what to believe. And part of me really wanted the new scan from the very popular diagnostic center to be true and the one from the Wayside Diagnostic Center to be the wrong one. But the gynecologist suggested something else. Just to have a neutral ground, let's just do a hormonal profile. So a hormone profile test that's going to tell us the percentage of every hormone you have in your body, and that is going to tell us the real result. So I did that, it came back, and then he said, well, I'm sorry, the Wayside Diagnosis Center was right. You definitely have PCOS with all these hormone levels I'm seeing. I was ready to start treatment at this point because there was so much at stake if I didn't start the treatment. And I was just some few months away from my wedding. So I just wanted to start a treatment, which I did. So as Christians, in as much as we are trusting God and believing and hoping on Him for a miracle, we do not have to sit aloof and say, oh, He's God, He's going to do everything for me. Like in my situation, I could have just prayed and wait on God. I'm not saying He wouldn't have delivered, but even He, God, has told us to be circumspect in all of our doings. So you don't just sit down and say, oh, I'm sick, I'm praying to God to heal me, so I'll just sit in my house and continue to pray and God would heal me. No, God has given knowledge to people, doctors, nurses, of course. And so you need to seek help. If you're listening to me and you're going through something and you think that God is the only answer, yes, I am not here to say God is not the only answer, but God will not come down from heaven to do it for you. And sitting down and not doing anything about it is not going to change the situation either. So you need to do something. Fortunately or unfortunately for me, I had to travel to the UK just 2 weeks after my wedding. So there was no way I could finish the wedding and come back to the treatment. So the treatment that was meant to last for at least 6 months lasted for just 2 months, just 2 sessions. There was no way I was going to get pregnant. There was no way. That's what I thought to myself. So I felt like I've lost my long life dream of having my own children, and it was so difficult. This is the point where I tell you the importance of constant prayer. You know what the Bible says, that effectual fervent prayer of the righteous availeth much. And I'm here to reiterate the fact that it really avails much. I don't relent in the prayers at all. At this point, I felt that was the only thing I could rely on, because the treatment which I thought was going to help, I couldn't even have the full benefits because I just only had 2 sessions, so there was no way that was going to help. So I relied solely on the prayers, so I did not relent on those at all. I found this woman on YouTube who does midnight prayers, so I recorded one of her prayers and I would always pray with that. And I mean, I used that prayer for so long that I could at a point recite everything from that prayer. One thing that really stood out for me with that woman's prayer was the fact that it wasn't just a prayer recital. It was more like a guide. She was teaching you how to pray. So she was saying in that recording that you should quote the Bible, because God has exalted his word above his name. So the name of God, we all know, is a very powerful one. I mean, at the mention of the name, all knees bow down and every tongue confess that he is God. So if there's something more powerful than that name, then that thing should be really powerful. And guess what it is? The word of God. So there's so much power in the word of God. And this woman was telling us that you should quote a promise in the Bible and then bring it back to God and tell him, this is what you've said in your word. So I'm bringing your word back to you. And you've told me that you've exalted your word above your name. And I know how powerful your name is. So if you have exalted this word above that very powerful name, then this word is really powerful. So I'm bringing this word back to you. And I am telling you that you have promised me this. You cannot fail. So I went on a Bible hunt looking for all the quotations. Thankfully, Google was so helpful. You just Google quotations that talk about being pregnant, being reproductive, and you get all of those things. And the woman also gave me some of the quotations as well. One quotation that I got from that woman's recording was, I don't really remember where it is. I'll try and find it and put it in the description box. It says, and of Asher, he said, let Asher be blessed with children, and let it be acceptable unto his brethren. So of course, I eliminated Asher's name and inserted mine. Let Gifty be blessed with children, and let it be acceptable unto his brethren. So I would say this all the time when I'm praying and tell God that you have exalted your word above your name. So I'm standing on this word that you have said, and I'm saying that let Gifty be blessed with children, and let it be acceptable unto his brethren. So I moved to the UK after 2 weeks of my wedding, and obviously my honeymoon pregnancy dream was quashed because I was definitely not pregnant after my honeymoon. And I used to test for pregnancy almost every week after the honeymoon. It was so tiring, and every time I got a negative result, my heart sank, and I would be so worried, and I'll be thinking of all the things the lady who took the first scan said, and it was just too hard. I know I hadn't even been married for a year, but I was really looking forward to getting pregnant because I just wanted to get it out of the way. I wanted to be sure I could really have children. I think it was having an effect on my husband, so the man magically turned into a psychologist, and he would try and talk to me, preach to me, do everything. It wasn't working. I was just too anxious. He would tell me, we are still very young. I mean, we are not even up to a year of marriage, so I don't think we should worry about those things. And even if God says we are not going to have children, we need to find happiness with each other. So after a couple of months, I finally decided to stop testing for pregnancy and let God be God. I was still praying, and I was hoping that he would definitely come through for me. I was just having faith in him that he was going to really, really, really come through for me, which he did. Yes. Like I say often, when the time is right, he will show up and show off. And that is exactly what he did. So as part of the PCOS treatment, I was asked to track my cycle. So I was really on top of that now. And because of the medication I had taken, it had sort of regulated my cycle for a while. So I was getting a very regular cycle now. I'd stopped taking the medication. Obviously, I'd run out of the medication because it was only 2 sessions. And I missed my period for a month. So I just thought it's probably because I've run out of the medication. So I didn't really think about it that much. But I just decided to get a pregnancy test and test again, which I did. I remember it so clearly as if it was just yesterday. I was in work that day. I was on a long day and I took the pregnancy test to work with me. And on my break, I took a urine sample and tested. And there it was, a faint line. It was the faintest line, but I was so happy. I quickly took a picture and sent it to my sister, who is a midwife, and asked her what the faint line means. I mean, does it really mean I'm pregnant? And she told me that it could be that it is very early in the pregnancy. That's why the line is very faint. So I should wait and test in maybe 2 weeks and see. I was so happy. So because it wasn't like definitely sure that I was pregnant, I didn't want to tell my husband because I didn't want to raise his hope and then get it all dashed again. So I told myself that I'll wait till after 2 weeks when I test and I get a proper positive sign, a positive line, then I'll tell him about it. But I couldn't keep it to myself. Right after work that day, I told him about it and he was over the moon. We were so happy. I mean, he was happy for me, basically, because I had prayed, I had cried, I had done everything for this day. After a couple of weeks, I just couldn't sit still anymore. I told him, let's go get a scan. And then he was like, you can't get a scan until you are far ahead. We had already registered with a midwife and she had booked to see us in, I think, in about 2 months. I couldn't wait. I just couldn't wait. And I convinced him with so many scary things. And then he finally accepted and then we went to a private scan and see if everything is okay, if it's in the right place, all that's blah, blah, blah. So when we went to have the scan, the man, this time it was a man who was doing the scan, the sonographer. So we started the scan and then the sonographer was like, oh, and that's a little heartbeat. I was so happy. It was finally happening and it was in the right place. There was no ectopic pregnancy, nothing. And then just before I could contain my excitement, he said something else. Oh, surprise. And we have another heartbeat. I went to look at my husband's face and then we just smiled. The sonographer was like, you don't look surprised. Did you know you were having twins? And we said, yes, because we prayed for it and God had answered us. And one more surprising thing happened. So the sonographer was still going on with the scanning and then he was making this face. I was like, is everything okay? And then he asked, is this a natural pregnancy? I said, yes. I mean, what do you mean by is it a natural pregnancy? And then he asked if it was an IVF. I said, no, this is a natural pregnancy. And then he was a bit skeptical and I asked him, why? Why did you ask about that? And he said, because I can see that you have a lot of cysts in the ovary. Obviously, every lady has 2 ovaries. So with mine, it was one of the ovaries that has most of the cyst and it was a lot. So I think it was the left that had a lot of the cyst. And surprisingly, the egg that fertilized both children was from the left. The exact place where the cyst was a lot. So the sonographer was quite surprised that it was a natural pregnancy. And then we told him, look, this is just the hand of God. If he did it for me, if he came through for me and gave me twins, trust me, he can do it for all of you. You just have to believe. You just have to have faith in him. And that is exactly what this channel is all about, just to help you build your faith and trust in God, to remind you that there is somebody up there who's looking down on us and listening to all of our heart's desires. It might look like it's taking a while, but trust me, when the time is right, he will show up and he will show off. There are a lot of women out there who are waiting on God for the fruit of the womb. Trust me, I know how waiting is. Even though I didn't have to wait for a very long period, I know how much of a torture it was. I know how my heart sank every time I saw a negative on that pregnancy test. I know how hard it is to see other people being pregnant, especially young girls who do not even want the pregnancies. I know how difficult you try not to think about it. I know all of these things, but I'm just here to tell you that God is still in the miracle business. The God who gave me twins from that very ovary that has lots of cysts, he is still in the miracle business. Just like I did, I would entreat you to pray continuously, because the effectual fervent prayer of the righteous availeth much. Bible quotations that talk about being pregnant and being reproductive. Look for Bible characters who went through the same journey as you. There's Hannah, there's Elizabeth, there's Sarah. There's so many lessons to learn from all of these people. There's a Bible quotation that says, there shall not be the mention of a barren amongst his people. Claim that from yourself. You are a part of God's people. So because you are part of God's people and he has promised that shall never be a barren amongst his people, you are part of his people, so you shall never ever be barren. Claim this Bible promises for yourself. I mean, if you have to be aggressive about it, be aggressive about it. If you have to cry, cry to God about it. Trust me, he listens and he is closer than we think. Just so this video is not too long to bore all of you, I'm going to do a part 2 of my pregnancy journey on my next episode. I'm going to tell you all about the pregnancy journey, what really went into it, all the ups and downs that I had to face up until the boys were born. You do not want to miss that. There's a lot to learn and a lot to talk about. So make sure you are here. I'm sure you all remember the very exciting segments we talked about in the first video. Before we wrap up on every episode, we are going to be plunged into a segment where we talk about beauty, hair, braids, wigs, how to style them, how to maintain them, all the tips and tricks. And this is the very first edition. I'm really excited about it. You would want to stick and stay and open your eyes, because I'm going to teach you something very exciting. So with the help of a cross-section of you people, we've had a very nice name for that segment, and it's, drum roll, Slay Seats with the Boys Mama. So up next is Slay Seats with the Boys Mama. Enjoy.
Slay Seat with Boys Mama.
Hi beautiful people, welcome to Slay Seats with Boys Mama. I am so ecstatic about this segment. Due to one or two reasons, I couldn't film a live video, so I had to put some videos together. I was really thinking hard of which video to post, because this is our maiden edition. And then I thought of something. Why not teach you how to wear your wig without glue or any sort of spray? So I installed this wig I'm wearing now without spray or glue. So in less than 3 minutes, stick with me. I'm going to teach you how to achieve that. So this is what I use for the installation. It's an edge control cream called Gummy Wax. I got mine from Amazon. I'm sure it's very common, and you can use any other edge control. I'm sure it's going to work perfectly for you. So this is me just pulling my hair back, and you'd apply a sizable amount on your forehead, I mean where your wig is going to sit, just as you would have if you were using a glue. best part is you don't have to wait for it to dry. So after that, you put on your wig. This is a very bad practice. Don't be like me. Always make sure you have a wig cap on before you put your wig on. It doesn't only protect your hair, it makes it lie flatter so your wig doesn't look too bulky. I intentionally slow this part just so you can grasp the art of putting the wig directly onto where you applied the edge control. It's very, very important. Once that's done, just go ahead and make sure that every part of the wig is fully attached onto your head. And the rest is basically just combing. So at this point, you can use an elastic band to enforce the hold. However, if you are in a hurry, as I appear to be in this video, you can just use the edge brush, dip it in the edge control again, and then put it on the edges of the wig, just as I was doing. Some things are difficult to explain. And that's you done. If you did put on an elastic band, you just have to wait for a few minutes and then take it off. It doesn't have to be any designated time whenever you feel like it. So the rest is just styling. This is super easy. Plus, it is not time consuming at all. Let me show you how I rocked it later to church. I mean, look at that seamless install. I could tell you I use glue and you would believe me. Let me get you a closer look. Look at that. Biggest secret, if your edge control is as good as the one I've used in this video, it can last the whole day. Hope this was helpful. See you next time. So until next time, has been, and shall always remain the boys' mama. See you in my next video.